Hello YouTube, and welcome to my latest Comic Book Editions video. We'll also be doing some new subscriber shoutouts before the video is over with as well. The books that we're going to feature today come from a comic book show, and a couple from my local comic book store, and one eBay purchase that I recently made. This is kind of a two-parter video because before I went to this comic book show, I knew I was going to this town where I had pre-negotiated a deal with a collector who was getting rid of his collection, and I knew I was picking up a lot of books from him. So I thought I'd tie it together with this comic book show, and the biggest goal for me was to stay in budget at the show and not excessively spend, since I knew that I would be spending from this other buyer on Facebook Marketplace. Those comic books I'll show you in part 2 of this video at a later date. As I mentioned in a previous comic book editions video, to me it's always what is the first comic book that I'm going to see that's going to make me go, absolutely, I can't go any farther until I buy this book. What's going to be the one that makes me pull that trigger? And at this show, there's no way I couldn't get Comic Book Reader number 181 from July of 1980. Of course, Wonder Woman on the cover. To my knowledge, there are two other Comic Book Reader covers with Wonder Woman on that I don't have yet, issue number 140 and 218. I had actually been eyeing this on eBay a few months ago. Didn't pick it up. Glad I didn't. I got a very good deal. This first collector had all of his books in his little bargain section, 3 for $10, but essentially he was just selling them 3 for $9, so $3 a piece. He said until it got to noon, then all of the books were going to $2. At the time he told me that, it was like 12 minutes to noon. So I had just gotten to his place at the show, so I knew I could kill 12 minutes looking through his stuff, and ended up pulling out some books from him for $2. Extremely happy to be adding this to my collection. I believe that cover art is some Jack Abel art, and the interior is actually from an Adventure Comics. I think it's issue number 459 if I'm not mistaken. Haven't looked through any of these books yet. I'm excited to in the future, but I'm really excited to have this comic book too. No way at all was I going to pass up being able to add this to my collection. I think it's the first time I actually ever saw this comic book in person too. I've seen pictures of it online, but never actually in person. So that was the one that flipped the trigger. And since I knew I would be buying from that buyer, I decided to look through some other books that were about to become $2 each. And the next one that I chose, I had seen before I saw the Comic Reader one, and I thought, well, this is quite interesting. I am a fan of the dollar reprints that DC is doing. I'm a fan of the DC and Marvel facsimiles. I like Marvel's True Believer reprint titles. I wasn't aware of a reprint of Brave and the Bold 28 with the Justice League. And I saw it, and once I knew I was buying from this buyer, I went back to where the book was, and I snagged it up for sure. I knew I would enjoy it. Turns out it is a Loot Crate exclusive, and it is sealed in the factory seal Loot Crate bag inside my bag and board and there. So I'm very happy to have this. I probably won't open it. I think at some point in the future, DC will either facsimile or dollar comic this issue again, and I'll pick that up too. But I have read it digitally, and I'm sure I have a reprint of it somewhere else in my collection. It's kind of a tradition for me when I go to this show. I always try to come back with a Superman family comic book. I don't know why. I can't pinpoint what it is. Maybe it's because those books generally aren't very expensive, and I am trying to fill in my run of the Superman family. This book was in great shape. The next dealer that I ended up going to had this exact same book for the exact same price in almost the exact same condition. And I was looking through my CLZ app, and I'm like, okay, I don't have this book. And I'm like, wait a minute, you just bought a Superman family comic just a few minutes ago. Is this the one you bought? And I double checked, and yep. So I guess it was destined that I was going to come home with Superman family number 177 from this trip. I am working on my Tigra collection as well. Not the craziest about the art here on the cover, but Marvel Team Up number 67, featuring Spider-Man teaming up with Tigra. Looks like they're taking on Kraven the Hunter. For $2, couldn't resist it. It looks to be in very great shape as well. No brainer. Freedom Fighters number 5. This is an upgrade copy for me. $2. Like I said, not going to bypass that. Wonder Woman, which was the Earth 2 Wonder Woman, guest starred in a 2-part Freedom Fighters story, number 4 and issue number 5. I have both of those comics. I am and have been looking for upgraded copies of both. They're not expensive comic books. So when I saw this for $2, I thought I'll snag this and I'll work on getting an upgraded copy of number 4. I do remember this 2-part story as a child. I bought it as a back issue as a child and really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to snagging another copy of number 4 and rereading it in the near future. As a matter of fact, I think I have 3 Freedom Fighter comic books. The series didn't last very long. If I'm not mistaken, 15 issues. I might try to work on filling out my entire run of Freedom Fighter Bronze Age comic books too. All-Star Comics number 63. Overall, the book's in pretty good shape. I think all of these books from this seller had been pressed, which is fine. Don't have a problem with that. There is like just a little wave around here, but it's not bad at all. I believe I am only one All-Star comic book away after they restarted the title in the Bronze Age to have all of those from, what is it, number 57 on up? I believe so, with the Super Squad, first appearance of Power Girl. I think I'm only missing one. So definitely that comic book is a high priority. And I know that DC also recently did a hardcover reprint of those issues from 57 on up in the Only Legends Can Die storyline. So I want to pick up the hardcover as well. Happy to find that too, and especially at such a good price. Those were the books that I got from the first seller that I purchased from. I moved on to a couple tables down and picked up a few more books. This book, it's Fantastic Four number 200. How can you resist that? That is a classic cover. I've really been enjoying rereading some of these Fantastic Four stories. This one I never had, but I really like this era of Fantastic Four stories too. From the late hundreds into the early 200s are some of the stories that I really enjoy. Like I said, I've never read 200, couldn't resist it. It had a $2 price tag. I bought several items from this person and he knocked the grand total down. So it ended up being like $1.30 something maybe per book. So can't beat that at all. Great cover once again though, look at that. I am also trying to work on my Secret Society of Supervillains. Like the Freedom Fighters, they didn't have a very long run. I have several books already, but this seller, the same one that I purchased Fantastic Four from, had many of the books that I didn't have. So I picked up number 2, nice cover there with the Hal Jordan Green Lantern. Picked up number 5, which has Hawkman there and Sinestro, who's part of the Secret Society. Oh, it looks like a Green Lantern as well. I wonder if Comic Fu has these comics. I know he's such a Green Lantern fan. Secret Society of Supervillains number 6. Recently, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos, I'm in a big Black Canary fix right now, so I enjoy getting another comic with her in. Secret Society of Supervillains, I believe that's number 11. Good cover there too. Secret Society of Supervillains, I think that's number 13. With the Earth 3 villains. I always wonder, because I've heard debated things, is she supposed to be the evil version of Wonder Woman, or is she supposed to be the evil version of Lois Lane? If you know or have the definitive answer for me, please leave that in the comments. I've heard people say both. JLA number 47. This was a little bit of an impulse purchase. This is part 3 of the Once Upon a Time storyline. I've never read it. I know what happens in it. I know that it's the Queen of Fables, and she's pretty much obsessed with Wonder Woman because she believes she's Snow White. I know the next issue has that great cover with Wonder Woman in the coffin. I plan on picking up number 48 and 49 and reading the stories all as one. Those issues aren't a problem to find at all. Very cheap to find, as a matter of fact, too. But I saw this and I was buying from the seller, and I thought, what the heck? I ended up finding number 48 and I think number 49 at another seller at the show. But for whatever reason, I didn't have enough time to go through all of his comics, and I just didn't pick it up. And he had several of them, and I know that those books aren't going to be hard for me to get. And then finally from this seller, I picked up Secret Files and Origins, The Guide to the DC Universe 2000, issue number 1. I already have this comic book, and I didn't buy it for an upgrade. I actually think the book that I have is probably in just a touch better shape than this. But the reason I did pick this up, I own one of the interior pages, the original art for it. And I thought if I ever decide to get rid of that original art, it's always nice to pair it with the actual comic book that it was published in together as a set. So a potential future investment. Right now, I don't think I have any plans on getting rid of that original page of art. And it's the Wonder Woman page, no surprise there, that showcases her and a lot of the Wonder Woman characters, the Wonder Woman, quote, family at the time. So those that was the reasoning, or the decision behind adding this comic book and repurchasing it again. That was the final comic book that I got at this convention. Let me tell you a few of the things that I showed great restraint in not buying. If you watched my previous comic book editions video, you know how much I want Justice League of America number 73 and number 74. Well, they had both of those. And I looked at them several times. It wasn't too far out of my budget, but I was really trying to stay within budget. And trust me, with these books, I stayed within budget, had money for lunch, and still had a little bit left over. So I'm very proud of myself for showing the restraint. However, like I said, I knew I was about to pick up a whole bunch of books from someone on Facebook Marketplace, which will focus our next comic book editions video just on those purchases. So I left the Justice League number 73 and number 74 behind. They also had a Brave and the Bold number 61 and 62. This features Starman and Black Canary. As I mentioned, I'm super into Black Canary right now. I've read the stories in reprint form. I kind of like to have both originals, I think, of the issues. I've seen these books from the same seller at this show for a while now. Well over a year, if not well over 2 years. So I guess I'm taking for granted that hopefully it will be there the next time I have a little bit of extra money to spend, and we'll probably consider those. They were in good shape. So after the comic book show, I went over and picked up these comic books from the Facebook Marketplace collector that was selling off his collection. As I mentioned, for probably about the third time now, we will showcase those videos in my next comic book editions video. We'll solely devote the entire video just to the ones I picked up there. And after that, I decided to head to the local comic book shop. I'm not going to focus a whole lot on what I bought there. I'm just going to focus on a couple titles. I don't buy a lot of new titles, to be honest with you. I pick up Wonder Woman. I pick up select True Believers, select facsimiles, and select DC Comics dollar titles. But one of the dollar titles that I did pick up, even though I own the original, was Crisis on Infinite Earths number 1. Just liked it. The only reason that I'm putting it in this video, I try not to be a big complainer. I try my best, but they did miss the mark by not making that a wraparound cover. They did miss their mark on that one. I get it. Just think that they missed their mark. It was fun rereading this, especially with the upcoming CW Crisis on Infinite Earths coming very soon. Can't wait to watch that. And the other two comic books that I'm picking up that I did want to mention, and since I'm complaining right now, it's Marvel Tales. Now, I completely missed out on this series, and you know why? It's the cover art. I just happened to be walking past this on a shelf, and I know it's been out for a while, And I thought, huh, that's interesting that they're drawing Scarlet Witch in the old style. And I mean, all of the Avengers, especially the Wasp, are depicted in the old style. I didn't think anything of it being a reprint title because the art doesn't match what the art is inside. I just happened to grab the book and flip through it, and I went, well, these are the type of stories that are definitely my wheelhouse. I'm missing out not getting these. So I picked that up, and then I came home and I started researching a little bit more to see what other Marvel Tales titles there were that I was missing out on. I went back to my local comic shop soon after, and they had still had the Fantastic Four one on the shelf. I have walked by this book so many times. That book looks, the cover of it looks nothing like what the interior that's reprinted is. This looks like all new stories to me, or potentially reprints of stories within the last few years. That is no disrespect to any of the cover artists or anyone that's a fan of the cover art for these books. I just like my cover art to represent a little bit more accurately of what's inside. Been really enjoying this book too. My LCS has the Black Panther Marvel Tales. I'm considering picking that up. They had their leftover copies of X-Men sent back to the warehouse, but they were going to snag one from the warehouse and bring it back for me. And I got a note from them yesterday, an email, that they do have one waiting for me. And I might see if they can find me a Black Widow one. And then I think out of the ones that I was interested in the most, I would have those. And I'll just keep an eye out in the future, make sure that I'm looking at what's being released for future Marvel Tales. I have one eBay purchase that we're going to add to this video as well. I have to tell you, I'm going to slow down a little bit on my comic book purchasing on eBay. It's just the shipping, and sometimes the condition, more times than not, the condition is not what the seller describes, even with the pictures posted. And I've just been a little bit disappointed. That's not the case for the book that I'm about to show you. It was in exactly as how it was described condition. But just overall, I'm just saying I'm going to cut down a little bit on my spending on eBay. I think I could get better deals at some of these comic book shows and stuff, even though I live in a rural, smaller area, a smaller town, and there's not a lot of them to choose from. I still think I'm going to get the better deals there. But I needed an upgraded copy of Ms. Marvel number 20. This is the first appearance of her new black costume with the lightning bolt. I actually have this comic book. Well loved this comic book in my youth, and this was a replacement copy. I know this is starting to heat up a little bit in price, and it went for too good of a price on eBay not to resist. Probably about half the price, even with shipping, that I was expecting to pay when I would replace it. So I went ahead and snagged it now, and I'm not disappointed with that at all. I do have the True Believers reprint of this from earlier this year as well, and love that too, but still wanted the original. I have all of the comic books in the Ms. Marvel title, all 20-some issues. I think it was 23 issues, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that was the only one that I needed to get an upgrade or a replacement copy of. So I did. So I want to take this moment right now to give a shout out to a few folks that have subscribed to the channel, starting with Mark Bray. Mark, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Mark's a friend, and one goal that I have, I want to go to a comic book show, like a big show in a big city sometime with Mark. I live in the Midwest and he lives on the East Coast, so we're going to have to figure out our logistics on that, but sometime in my life I want to go to a comic book show with Mark. I think that we would have an absolute blast. He's a huge Superman fan too, and I think it would be a bunch of fun. I want to give a shout out to Metarog. Metarog is someone, when I've been watching for a while now, other people's comic book videos, I hear them mention Metarog. I was well aware of him and his channel, and then when I saw he actually subscribed to me, even though we have never interacted at all, I was like, oh wow, Metarog subscribed to me. That put a huge smile on my face. So thank you very much, Metarog, for being here. And we also have a new subscriber in AFTA Comics. When someone starts subscribing to me, I try to look into their channel as well, if I'm not familiar with them. And with AFTA Comics, I have to say, he has some fantastic videos. I especially enjoyed last night. I was watching all of his different videos with his poster room tours and the different posters that he has, and some that I never knew existed and some I had forgotten about. That was extremely interesting, and I just kind of browsed through and saw many other videos he has that I thought this will be of great interest to me. So After Comics, thank you so much for being a subscriber as well. All three of these folks, make sure to check out their YouTube page and see what they have to offer. You made it again to the end of another one of my YouTube videos, which means the world to me. You can show support on this channel by subscribing and then wait for your shout out because it will be coming once you do subscribe. Clicking the notification bell will inform you when new content is being added to this channel. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Are any of these comic books that I showed on this video ones that you own or ones that are on your want list? What books are you wanting? What books did you recently acquire? Let's discuss. Let's discuss anything. Let's discuss any of the characters that were in the books that I showed on this video. Always, comments are always welcomed and appreciated. So thank you again for making it to the end of another video here on my channel. It means the world to me. We'll have that other comic book editions, kind of a part 2 to this video, and I'll show you the books that I got from the Facebook Marketplace seller who was kind of weeding off his collection. That will be our next comic book unboxing editions video. Shouldn't say unboxing, it'll be our next comic book editions video, and that will be coming very soon. Thanks again for watching and have a great rest of your day.